or otherwise.
All right, so we call the meeting to order at 6:02. Really fast. And we'll start by looking at the agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder on the agenda, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by David. I haven't forgotten you, Ida. Any additions? I would like to add under BCSTA, special recognition. So that would be 10.1A and 1B. We'll have Leah. Calling the question, all in favor? I'm missing Erin. Did she see the 6:30? Hey, that's okay. We
There's
got
some agendas here for you there.
agendas
You
there,
can
and
have a
there's
seat
even
here.
candy.
Oh, there you go.
Good.
Why is that the media behind you? I don't know. We could do all kinds of things.
Yes, you could. Well, we trust you. Good. So, before we move to item number 3, which is a presentation from our Chief Election Officer, I would like to publicly thank staff for taking on this important role on top of all of the other things that they do. And in working with them during the election period, it was very clear that there's a determination to leave a learned legacy for the next election crew, and a diligence that I really, really appreciated. So I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that tonight. All right, over to you.
Can we turn this on, or can you share it on? How should we?
Would you like to
Yeah,
talk?
sure, please.
Some water.
Hello, how are you? First.
You want to just email it to me and I'll pull it up?
Oh, it's okay. After all that drama, here is a synopsis of our trustee election for this year. So we opted not to get an outside person to run the election. So Brandy and myself, if we're being honest, Brandy took the trading and did the majority of the work for the election. I really got off very lucky with having to sign documents and post things and give a couple presentations. So I'm going to echo what Helen said, and I'm extremely grateful for the work Brandy put in. And with that, she does have a large amount of notes and documentation, and I think what I started to say there is we will need to take the public course again, because there was a course put on and Brandy sat through it and read through this. I can't even explain how large this binder is, and really took it on. So I appreciate all the work she did. Some of the work, synopsis of tasks and takeaways. We worked with the city closely and the PRRD in partnership for election sites. Learning and executing the BC election timelines around announcements and deadlines. So we had some growing pains there, because if you're working with newspapers, it doesn't always align with when we have to put things out. So that's a good takeaway. Advertising in print or online. So in our policy next time around, we'll try to do everything online as opposed to in print. And communication with candidates, and then creating a ballot and determining which ballots we would partner with. We could only partner with the city this time around, and likely in the future, unless we get our trustee electoral areas changed, because we don't align with the PRRD. So if we were on one ballot, we wouldn't be on the other ballot. So as you all know, we had 4 trustees in through acclamation, and I just thought this would be a good spot to talk about the trustee electoral areas, because that came up a bit this election. So those are determined by the Ministry of Education and Childcare. I harassed Elections BC, and then they said, we don't do that. They said the ministry does that, so you need to talk to them. And there is a process available to us to change the trustee electoral areas. Specifically, if you can visualize electoral area 5, where you have only half of 101 in that electoral area, and then I believe the other half is in yours, in TA2. So what is the rationale behind that? And I think it's population-based, but we'll have to, if we want, we can dive into it. But so we need a rationale and a public discussion if we want to move forward with changing it. And I don't know how they came to be originally, so.
I asked her the historical question. I didn't know if Ida knew.
I can tell you, Angela, that I'm not even sure, it would have been probably just before you were on board. We did look at changing our areas, and we went through a whole process. So you probably have some information on that. Okay. Because we went through the whole process, and we decided through the public and us that we weren't going to change. That's when we had these maps actually done.
Okay.
The way it was explained to me when I first came on, that the highway made the division kind of thing. So anything left of the highway, anything right of the highway kind of theory.
For that one small piece at the top.
Okay.
And also the history of it is Hudson's Hope at one time was its own school district.
Okay.
I just know that there's lots of confusion, and one of the conversations earlier in here is, even if we weren't to change anything, there needs to be much better maps available for the public and ways of them checking.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I actually had written a note, discuss myths related to school board elections with Angela, and one was mentioned. I don't have kids in school, I can't vote. Well, Area 5 is only the city of Fort St. John. I live in Charlie Lake, I couldn't vote for you. Well, actually, did you notice I had signs up the highway and one right in front of Charlie Lake School? Yeah, you could have voted for me. So, I mean, how much do you take on fixing some of that kind of stuff? But if you truly believe in democracy, then some of the things that came up during the election or something, that if, even if it's, we address it through communication, without changing areas. But I'm not sure what our voter turnout was, but it would be nice to have it higher.
If they wanted to know, they could have known, figured it out.
We,
I think there's a certain amount of apathy.
there is a certain amount of apathy, but it's the easier you make it. Sorry, Angela, I interrupted you.
Sorry, Helen, I'm used to it. This is good discussion.
And Angela, I do know when we looked at this, one of the question that we asked was, should we go in areas and zones, or should we go members at large? And we took a full, at least a year of discussing this and had people come and do presentations and stuff. So there's gotta be some about how,
Do you know around when?
well, it would have been,
It was during one of my terms when we were
Yeah.
talking about it, and we even had the staff do like a full investigation on what it would mean to change it from zones to members at large, so.
and
It was
and that's
fun.
when these maps were drawn up, so. if we
Yeah,
can go when
yeah.
that
And-
map was.
And there was a full explanation as to like why they were drawn up, and I believe Bill was right when he said the highways kind of split. It was the highway, because it was an easy line, it was the highway that split the two zones.
David?
If we could have better maps at the locations, I mean, when you walked in, you needed a microscope to look
That was
at.
Peace River Regional District though.
Well, I know, but it was, which area do you, are we inside the city?
And I'm not sure, you know, there's sort of a totally wonderful system, but we noticed some things that we need to either communicate differently about or potentially change. In going through the election results for school board for all of the province, there are some that Ida meant, like we mentioned, they don't have any areas. It's just you're electing 7 trustees. And what ends up happening is you can have a situation like Victoria where they had 31 names on the ballot and people just, there's fatigue, right? They don't know who, or what ended up happening is, well, you want me to vote for 7, I only know 4. So I'm not sure that any one system doesn't have some things to it, but even having people understand our existing system better is really important. And when somebody said to me, well, why do you have the zones that way? I went, I don't know if I've ever asked that question. So it'll be something I ask.
Well, it makes sense.
I want to say that Prince George went to zones. They were an at-large board, and I think it was 2 elections ago, maybe, or 3, they flipped and went to zones because they were finding that the McBride and the Mackenzie area were not getting trustees elected from those areas. They were being elected from Prince George to represent them. So
That does make sense.
Nicole and Madeline are in their zones. They're on the other finger on the pulse, so. And yourself, sorry. That's a staple.
So we saw action in trustee electoral area 5 candidates running for 3 positions. This is all quite redundant. You all know what the results of this was, but we had 2 advanced voting and then general voting day on October 15th. So this is where we have the number of votes that occurred. For 2022, there was 2,756 ballots cast for TEA 5, and in 2018, there was 2,942 ballots cast. And of those, 189 in the current year were from the Peace River Regional District. That's through advanced voting and general voting day. And here is,
Sorry, Angela, is there any way of removing that?
I don't know, I've been trying to get rid of it the
Okay,
whole
that's,
time.
oh, no, it's maybe not you, it's probably this.
No, it's my computer, and every time I try to get rid of it. it
Oh, okay,
tells
sorry,
me,
my
so-
fault. Yeah, never mind, leave it.
we have our results here. We have Helen, Bill, and Thomas as representatives for trustee electoral area number 5. Points of mention. So Brandy and I went and sat at Cherry Lake School and on general voting day. Every person who came through that door was asked if they wanted to vote for School District 60, and the responses we received were yes, some definitely no. I don't know anything about the candidates. I don't have kids in school, and I don't know what trustees do. So that is what Helen also mentioned. How do we put more information out there? How do we educate the community around the roles of trustees? And really begin thinking about it now and not wait until the year of the election, kind of. But a process I think is important because you don't have to have kids in school to vote for trustees. Like you, and I appreciated the people who said, I don't know anything about the candidates and didn't just get a ballot and randomly pick the first 3, right? They wanted to do their due diligence and read about some even left, read, and came back and voted. So there we had a few different things going on there. And just finally, congratulations to the newly acclaimed and elected School District 60 trustees. And that is how we run an election. I was glad we only had one electoral area for this initial go around, because I think that's what made it a bit calmer for us. So, but now we'll be ready for the next one too.
Well,
Whatever the next one brings, we'll be ready.
and I think that I've learned through running as a trustee, things that I never knew before as just going and voting. The PRNTA did hold a meet and greet question and answer session. It wasn't overly well attended, but the opportunity was there, and they circulated and put on their website some answers to some questions they posed. But even in that small group of people that was there, the concept that people really don't understand what we do was really apparent to me. And the concept of some of the people that are in the system that I was thinking, oh, would have thought you understood that a little bit more. So I think one of the things when we meet and start to do some planning as a new board would be to talk about some of our communication processes, because both Bill and I were answering questions and it was, well, you've never told us you've done all that stuff before. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, we kind of have. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, but it's obviously not getting to the places where people are looking at it. It was kind of like, well, what have you done about recruitment and retention? Now wasn't quite that bad, right, Bill? But it was, well, we've done, anyways. I was really quite surprised. And so that duty to do some communicating, I think, comes back to us, and we can talk further about that as a board. Communication doesn't all rest on Angela's shoulders, and it doesn't rest on Steve's.
Just before we go on, and so that it's in your notes and stuff, I really think that one of the best things that we used to do is we used to do about a year before the elections, we would go to Rotary, we would go to all of the PACs, we would go to Chamber of Commerce, we'd go to a lot of different outlets that we could, and we did a presentation about what your trustee is, why you should run. And I think that we should go back to doing that. It got that we were doing it every year. We don't need to do it every year. You only need to do it the year before the election. But it's got to be in enough time that you have people wanting to run so that they understand what a trustee is and stuff. And I think that we should look at the last year of this term doing that again.
Would we go as a group or individuals? It'd be better as a group.
Well, we've done it, I've done it both ways. I've done it totally on my own. I've gone to PACs and I've gone to stuff. And otherwise, I've done it with other trustees that have.
Totally.
But it's like, I'm sure when you were first a trustee, you saw the presentations from years ago that I did. And I think that, you know, it shows, because I think we need more people out there wanting to be trustees. It's an important role. I think we need to get that message out there.
I think there's a few things. Municipal elections in general, well, even just provincial elections in general have, you know, low voter turnout rates and for a lot of reasons. But, you know, one thing I can say, and one thing I learned in my doing community development for many, many years and being involved in politics for many, many years, is that you can hand out flyers, you can put things in people's doorways, you can do all kinds of stuff. I was literacy outreach coordinator for years, and I would be on the radio. I had flyers out, I had things mailed to people, and you know, everything. And somebody would say, so what is literacy? And it was like, okay, even though it was everywhere. So you can put all the information out there, but if it's not important to that person, if it's not important to them right now, it doesn't matter. They're not going to see it. They may read it, but they're going to forget about it because their brain's going 50 miles a minute and they've got lots of other things that are way more urgent and more important to them. So I just want to say, I don't, you know, I'm not saying not to do it. We have this discussion every year. We have this discussion every election, like, how do we get people out there? How do we get people to vote? How do we do this? And I think it's a good discussion to have always, to make sure that we're constantly engaging the public and educating the public. But at the same time, I don't think we should be dogging ourselves because we didn't do enough, because it doesn't matter how much you do. If it's not important to that individual, you can hand them a flyer right in front of them. You could read it to them. You could take them to the ballot, but if it's not important to them, it means nothing to them. They don't, you know, it's not in their sphere of things that they really care about. It doesn't matter. And so I also think that we need to look at provincially, municipal elections generally have the lowest voter turnout out there of any kind of election. So, and we also used to do, there was a few times that we were involved in when the city councilors had their debate, the trustees who were running against each other were also invited to that and were asked questions at those debates as well. And so, you know, that was done because I was involved in one of those. It was when it was at the Legion and not at the Lido. So, I mean, I think that there's lots of things that we can do. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got to say.
I like the idea about going around, but I think we should go as a group. If you go like as individuals, it's almost like you're campaigning for yourself, kind of thing.
Well, so maybe the trustee shouldn't do that. Maybe it should be somebody on staff who should be doing it then, because if you want to keep it from influence, free of influence, and people not running over themselves to go to the Chamber of Commerce, then maybe the trustee shouldn't be going to the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, I mean, if there's a number of us instead of one, if one goes, it makes it look like that, you know.
Sure, and then there's 4 of you going and one person can't go because they have to work. So, you know, then how fair is that? So I'm just saying, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I guess at the end of the day for me is I'm very happy to be reelected. I'm happy to continue to serve, but I want to make sure that we are doing everything to encourage people in terms of a democracy. And every time we do anything as a board, we learn from it to do better. And that's just where I'm at with even bringing this up. What do we do to have people? And I mean, an election is an event, but the decision is kind of based on what you've done for 4 years. So that communication along the way is, I think, important.
And I mean, the way I also see it is, I mean, one of the teachers I talked to Has probably been teaching as long as I've been a trustee in this district, and said, well, I couldn't go out and vote for you because I live in Cherry Lake. I'm going like, first, you're a teacher, and you've lived here for how long? And so that means you've never voted? Anything, like,
I think there
Well,
was,
maybe you can have at the schools, at the PAC meetings, they can put out stuff just to say what zone the schools are in. I mean, they do newsletters to the parents all the time. I mean, you can even have zone 5 on the newsletter that goes out to the parents, like, and on the websites of all the schools, you know, what zone they're in as a part of the website as the opening page. I mean, there's things that you can do to educate the public on that, that doesn't require trustees going out there. The other thing too is that, you know, you guys were there for 4 years. You know, I never really went out, but, you know, because of work and stuff, but when I, you know, but the challenges is going out there yourselves for the next 4 years and talking to people and educating them and saying, this is why you should vote for me in 4 years from now.
it just seems like that, to me, it seems like only the one area is kind of like sketchy where it entails kind of thing.
well, I
Or
think
maybe
there's
saves
a
a little
lot,
bit, but
lot of confusion over trustee zones or
Mhm.
trustee areas
Ton of it.
and Peace River Regional District areas. And, I mean, what can we do around that? I don't know, but we tuck it away. Back to Angela, who did all of this work, they'll come up with sort of some more ideas. And I think what's really important is the documentation of this by coming and presenting the way Angela has done, by capturing some of the conversation in minutes. Then when it comes time to get ready for the next time around, we have a record of this that we can ask staff, oh, yeah, we talked about that. Can we go back and look at the minutes and make sure we're doing some of those kinds of things?
I think I heard a comment earlier that we can't go on 2 different PR and PRD like ballots.
We can't go on, so you can't go on all the, because the PRRD
Yeah.
has their own zones, so we don't align with their electoral areas. So we can't, like in the city, we know the city limits. TDA 5 is gonna be, can be added to that ballot, but with the PRRD, because our electoral area doesn't line up with a specific one electoral area of theirs, we can't go on their ballots. We have to have our own in the areas outside of the city limits.
I get you, it just doesn't seem like, you know, you just have,
Because then you'd have PRD 2 ballots depending on where you live.
Yeah. So you'd have electoral area
And how do you
A, B, and C, and then you'd have the trustees listed, different trustees, or the same, like, it doesn't match up. In order to go on their same ballot, we would have to line up 100% with their electoral.
For recounting would be
Yeah.
really tough.
Leave that one to me, Bill.
yeah.
I
it
got
just
that.
Doesn't seem like to be on 2 different ballots.
I'll
doesn't
show you
seem
on
to
the
be-
map. And then you'll be like, just leave it the way it is. Oh, I think it's, if you're like me, maybe you just need a visual reference
Yeah.
between the two and the overlap that they have. So I'm happy to walk you through it.
It's a learning process. So again, I think we need to recognize our staff for the effort
Oh,
they
yeah.
put in and celebrate where we got to. And the little democracy person in me would have liked to have less acclaimed, but you know what? The other point of acclaimed is sometimes if people are happy with the job that someone's doing, why would I run? They're doing a really good job. So that's the flip side of acclaimed. It's not always, we're not interested. So moving on to trustee input and celebrations. We'll start with trustee Campbell.
Yeah, I've contacted a couple of my schools, but as you know, I've been away, so I haven't done a whole lot this fall yet. And I appreciate you guys doing the apples because I was away.
Miss Erin, do you have anything to say to us? Because, okay, and regrets from trustee Gillis tonight, although where she is, she might not be regretting. Vice Chair Lehman.
I actually managed to get to all the PAC meetings, Clearview, Charlie Lake, actually 2, Robert Ogilvie. First PAC meeting looked like they were not gonna have a PAC, but the second meeting, they now have a full brand new executive, so that's gonna keep going, that was good. Went to the upper halfway open house, and it's DPAC and SUPAC, and helped with the apple delivery.
Trustee Scott McCree.
I did the apple delivery to all my schools except for Upper Halfway, and Jacqueline, thank you, Jacqueline was cross paths with her, and had a great visit to each one of the schools. I can't say enough good things about the administrators and the job they're doing, so.
Trustee Snow.
Been to all my schools. Probably twice so far, like each one at least twice. Did the apples and went to several schools for that. Just been floating around, keeping busy.
So me, I got to do Baldonal's Terry Fox run and really appreciated the fact that the grass had been cut this summer. It was a much nicer Terry Fox run. Attended the DPAC SUPAC meeting, and I've been to PAC meetings for Baldonal, Montgomery, and Burt Bowes. Some of our PACs, it's very exciting to know that RO is up and running, but some of our PACs are running into some numbers issues, and some of it relates to when we're having so much trouble hiring in the schools. Who do our principals know? They know those wonderful people that come to PAC, and they shoulder tap and get them hired, and then there's a huge variation in PAC's constitutions across the district as to what your level of involvement can be on PAC if you're an employee of the school district. From 0 to you can still 0 to some you can vote, some you can't vote, some in a pinch you can be on the executive. So I have been in touch with Corey, and she knows that that's out there, and DPAC will take some of that on now. I got to Montgomery's open house, and I was so excited to spend an afternoon watching soccer. I got to the elementary soccer tournament, and what was really nice was to see people out, good time, good weather, but there was a lot of teachers back coaching. It was really nice to see. And like many of you, I did apples, and I know people said, oh, I was away and I wasn't able to do as much as I wanted to. District staff, through all of that, were ready to step up and have our back to have it happen. I think the more of it we can do ourselves, the more it becomes something that we're doing, but staff is certainly willing to step in and help. I did go to Upper Halfway with district staff, and again, a beautiful fall day and a nice trip. Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting I attended, and I attended the first NPA meeting this last week. And in the agenda package, you got a report on meeting with the opposition MLAs when they were in. So lots going on. Okay. So we'll move on to item 5 on our agenda, which is the minutes of the regular board meeting of September the 12th, which is pages 6 to 12 in your agenda package. I'll give you a chance to look at those. Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Aaron, seconded by Madeline. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? All in favor then? Any business arising from those minutes? Moving on to item number 6 in your agenda package. And can I get a mover and seconder? It's just page 13, single page excerpt, moved by Ida, seconded by David. Any errors or omissions? All in favor then? Carried. Do not have to see that COVID word on an agenda for a long time when I saw that. And then I had to go back and check the dates. Announcements and reminders. We just recently got the list of dates for the rest of the year for the NPA meetings. The first one was actually scheduled on the day of the Queen's funeral, so it got moved. I am not going to be in town on the 14th, and so definitely I'm looking for someone to attend that meeting. And again, when we've got a whole board at our inaugural meeting, we can see who wants to go when, but I definitely need a volunteer for the 14th. Okay, Bill, thank you very much. And we have.
Who's the contact now?
Our contact now is Cody Clements, and I'll let Cody know that you're intending to come, and he'll communicate with you. He'll communicate with either you or Leah.
Yeah, just so I know where the meeting is.
Yeah, it's at North Peace, I believe. And they're starting later. They're starting at 5 o'clock this year, which is later than we used to. And then the DPAC SUPAC meeting that is coming up tomorrow, Bill and Madeline are already signed up for. Sharon Shell sent that Google Doc out a long time ago. If you haven't signed up and you're able to, please do. But again, that'll be something else we look at again in November. But we would like to confirm who can go November 22nd. I signed up for a couple extra ones later on. Okay. All right, so I mean, I can go, but if there's somebody else that wants to, I'm more than happy. We can revisit that on the 21st at the board meeting.
Remembrance Day.
It's coming up later in the agenda, Bill.
Oh, I thought it was on this list here.
It's on the list, but it is coming up later on.
Good.
No problem. All right, moving on then to item number 8, senior staff reports. We'll start with Stephen's report, which is page 14 in your agenda package.
Thanks, Ellen. Item number 1 is a regular activity report around human resources. And then under education, there's the online superintendent's report. I'll briefly go through these items here. As always, it's organized under the categories of the framework. And Ellen has also circulated and seen there's now this list of education acronyms. So we put a placeholder here, and we'll also make sure that it's accessible in the trustees folder and for the public. But if you click on that, it'll take you to every single educational acronym and what it stands for. So it's very good.
You got to date it because we just keep adding.
Well, that's just true. It's snapshot in time. So we have some more. Under intellectual development, please don't try and read all of these titles. It was to show trustees and the public that there's a regular cycle of district assessments that happen around literacy and numeracy, primarily in the fall and in the spring. And all the way from kindergarten phonological testing to our primary reading literacy into our intermediate, as well as our secondary. On top of these, are the ministry assessments of FSA and the grad literacy and numeracy assessments. So we have a regular package that our curriculum development team and assessment team works with our administrators and staffs on. Under human and social development, there was a recent parent-child activity night. This was sent out through the schools, and so we continue to invite parents to some of our school activities and workshops, whether it's on behavior, art, and those kinds of things. Under career and international, it was neat to see our international students out volunteering. Trustee Gilbert is involved in this organization as well. Brian Campbell also was involved in terms of the international students. Never sure how many will continue for the year, Helen, but perhaps some of them will take on an interest in that area. It was quite an event. It was quite a start to the year for Hudson's Hope. And in addition to the city of Fort St. John being very supportive, schools also offered activities, spaces, welcomed them into their schools. And this is one example of that. So there was a group of Hudson's Hope students that went to Bert Ambrose School. They used their makerspace for the day, and were also presented with cards that the Bert Ambrose students had made. So it was a special day for them, and in every Hudson's Hope resident you talked to felt welcome in our community and in our schools. Under operations and human resources, just a quick update on our enrollment, and enrollment drives our budget. So this is this number of students that we're funded for in the district. We are at projections for 6,094. We ended up at 6,116, therefore about 22 over projections, and overall about 40 more students than last year. And there's been a general trend of students going back to their brick and mortar schools, which has, the hypothesis is it's led to a decrease in our online distributed learning school tutoring center. Also under human resources, we have a subscription for all staff, not just teachers, all staff to be involved in Teacher Fit, and it's an online portal that you can challenge each other, make up a team, try and do some activities and health and wellness activities each month. Also under HR, a number of workshops going on. A lot of these have to happen after school or on the weekends because we just don't have the TCOC coverage, but our QUIM, which is using picture models for learning literacy, as well as our smart learning workshops were going on. Under Truth and Reconciliation, Bert Bowes invited artist Rick Leaf to work with slam poetry around the theme of truth and reconciliation. And there's also an example here of the Northby Secondary School newsletter. They have a drop-in center there with counseling and teacher support and student support, and they put out a monthly newsletter that you can read here. Helen also mentioned the Visit Halfway River First Nations. So we met the students from that nation who go to our school in Upper Halfway, and we had a lovely day with them doing activities. We shared a lunch with them and just started making those connections that are so important to our First Nations partners. And then finally, as usual, Take 3 celebration of some activities and events around the district. Ida is well familiar with this particular tradition, and that's the Healthy Walk to Breakfast, they call it now, at the Taylor School. Pictures of the students getting fed by the community. So there's a really strong link between the community and the school in Taylor. And just some highlights here of the start to the year by CM Finch in terms of their carnival, and Terry Fox Run Open House, and all around the district, in fact. There were many events re-engaging parents and families to come into the school, and so that was great to see. And the last school here is again, Clearview giving the example of families being invited in, and it was a dance that was first of all training with Angie Pomeroy, and then a community dance. And there was over 110 student, staff, family, and community members joining in for the evening dance. It was a real nice community activity to see. And finally, it's not on their electronic report. I had mentioned this to trustees previously. I was thrilled to receive this British Columbia Music Educators Association Award for Outstanding Administrator. And this is a group of provincial music educators that nominate various teachers and administrators, and I was the successful person this year that received it. Happy to bring this to a board meeting because over the years, and Ida will recall, it's been because of the support of the board, both financially and through the arts. So, you know, Heather Hannaford and Ida and other trustees in the past that have made this a priority when we see lots of cuts and other districts that simply don't offer music programs or dance. So it's actually a team effort. And our current teachers are doing a phenomenal job, to the point that we now have former students close to being ready with their education degree to move on to the next level, and are looking forward to coming and teaching in this district. So it's nice to see. Item number 2, 3, and 4 are, I'm asking for motions to pass our selection of community coaches put forward, as well as our out-of-district sports and field trips. Some of them were revised, others have come up since the first time. And the BAA courses, I handed out at the beginning of the meeting a list of the locally authorized courses, so there's a bit of an easier synopsis to see which courses are being put forward. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Stephen. What we'll do is call for a mover and a seconder on that, please. Moved by Bill, seconded by Aaron. And what we will now do is go through Stephen's report item by item. Stephen, if you could start at the top.
Oh, and I guess we'll be moving the other items out of the report.
Do we know what the uptake was on the art one?
Let's see here. I'm not sure, but I'll find out. So far, actually, great question. So far, they've been all sold out. When I say sold out, it doesn't cost anything, but the maximum registration number was reached.
I'm still recovering. Pat Jensen said I was an elder at the upper half.
First. One question.
I just want to go to the Taylor Elementary. I just want to say, it is a great thing they do, and it's the council that puts it on, and they invite the whole community and the school. And this was the first year that they were able to invite, because of the last couple of years, of course, it was just the kids that went. So it was, it's really nice, and it's great to have the council that we have that provide this to our community to do this. Unfortunately, I was away when this was going on, but I know it was a big success. And the new counselors were there, and it was a big success.
All right. We'll just go back, because the actual first item on Stephen's report was the human resources report, and I'm just wanting to make sure if there's any questions related to that it will be. Right, and we'll start to look at those items that we need a motion for. So can I get a motion that we approve the attached 2022-23 community coaches? Moved by Bill. Seconded by Ida. All right, is there any discussion related to that? You'll note that Stephen did have to approve some things ahead of our meeting.
For the out-of-district field trips.
Out of district.
Yeah.
Question on that? All in favor? Out of district field trips, and there's an attachment there for that. Can I get a mover that the Board of Trustees approve the attached out of district sports and field trips? Moved by Bill, seconded by Aaron. Discussion related to those field trips or the information that we have? calling the question then, all in favor? And the final one, Stephen did provide us tonight with a list. I would go back to school for some of these courses.
Would I?
I'm not really sure about the Gothic literature, but it must appeal to somebody. Yeah, forensic science would be very exciting.
Well, Dracula is Gothic literature, so would Frankenstein be.
Okay. Okay.
I could.
So, can I get a mover and a seconder that the Board of Trustees approve the attached BAA courses?
Pick
Moved
any.
by David, seconded.
Everybody's hands up.
Everybody's hands were up. Depends on when I look.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
David and Bill.
David and Bill, thank you.
I have just a quick question on that.
Yep.
And that's more out of, I don't know. So this is all through the Key Learning Center, correct?
Yes, it's to make sure that we have these courses on offer,
So if
whether or not there are actually students
taking it or
subscribe
not.
to them right now. We just needed to catch up on some of the requirements before we could offer them officially.
So if anybody, grade 10, gets the list of courses to choose from, even though they're through the Key, they're gonna be on that list? That's just from my understanding, I don't know, so I'm asking, let's say, okay, I'm coming from Clearview, do I see these when I take courses? How do they find out about those?
Great question. They would be to go to the Key Learning Center. The counselors do let the students know that there is an online learning center, but we don't list all of the courses that Key Learning Center offers. And that would be something we could look at.
Because sometimes I feel that you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And there might be things that, oh gee, had I known about this, I would have. So that's the only reason I'm asking.
Absolutely. There are actually hundreds of courses
Mhm.
they offer that are not available at the high school. So, but it's at least letting them know that they're there and where to go to find them.
I'm just thinking, how could we, the wrong word, but market it, so it's there, so it's, you're not just looking at brick and mortar, and you're spreading your
Yeah.
your vision. So, these are courses you can get.
And so there's a transition from grade 9 to 10 when some of those contacts take place, and then there's even within their grade 11 and 12 year where we can make these kind of things better known as to what their options are.
Good at that.
Question, all in favor? Moving on to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
How did we vote on the main, with how you took those three out, but I don't think we voted on the main.
I thought we did, but.
Go on to superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, you had a mover and a second. I
Okay,
don't think you called
calling the
for it.
question then on the main report. All in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for keeping me honest. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now Angela, you're on the hot seat.
Thank you, Colleen.
Page 15 in your agenda package.
Okay, so to start with, finance update to September 30th. I have a human resource support staff summary up from September 10th to October 20th. Oath of office ceremony scheduled for October 31st. We will have a special regular board meeting from 1 to 3:30 for trustees to be sworn in.
1 to 1:30.
1 to 1.
Yeah.
3:30.
I'm reading it right.
We're also expecting to
We'll
get
sing and
40-minute
dance.
speeches or
We're
what?
paying attention.
From 1 o'clock to 1:30. Thank you, everybody. And then this is the opportunity, Bill, to discuss the Remembrance Day ceremony and the wreath placement. And yes, after my report, yes. And then the BCSTA Trustee Academy for December 1st to the 3rd. And that is my report.
All right, could I get a mover and seconder related to Angela's report? Moved by Aaron, seconded by David. And now we will go through the report item by item. If we look at the financial update.
Yes, so As you can see, we have a deficit of 1.3 million, not actually a deficit, so don't sound the alarm.
Language.
It's just, pardon me?
There's language there.
I did, I took it right back. We don't see funding really start per usual until this month. So September and August, we received $2 million for each month. September, we received 3.6 million, and October, we are on track to receive 6.6 million. So historically, looking back, by December, we're right on track with the funding and the expenses. So a good tell that we are doing well is that it's the funding that actually doesn't align. But the expenses do, so.
Okay. And on this, we are still saying we're unsure if we'll receive funding this year. I think that was for Alberta students, and I think we confirmed last month that we will get funding for them. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Was in the minutes, yeah.
I'm sorry, where did I put that we're not receiving Alberta? Oh, my
It
apologies.
just needs to be changed, that's
Yeah,
all.
my apologies on that one.
So, not a big deal. I just wanted to confirm that it was
Thank
coming.
you, I appreciate that. Yes, we will be getting funding for our Alberta students. And we in fact received 2 new Alberta students this year.
How many do we have? Roughly? No, don't do that.
I just sent the report in today, so it's pretty neat. I think we're up to 9.
I mean, why
That includes ones that are already in the system.
Yeah, so
Yep.
2 new.
and the new thing this year is that they're taking new ones again.
Yes,
isn't it?
well, yes,
Because they kind of were families, but they weren't taken.
yeah,
It's now allowed.
yes, so now we're back.
Any other questions related to our financial update?
I did look back at September of last year and we're quite aligned with the numbers, so.
Human Resources Support Staff Summary, and this is where you had a question, Bill.
Yeah, I asked earlier, and you said like, because of the numbers, people get laid off.
Yeah, because they hire based on what
Yeah.
they think their funding is for September. So
No, I get that.
yeah, so they staff based on that.
All I'm asking about here is the wording. There's
Termination,
no layoffs, but there's terminations.
because they were terminated, because the positions were terminated
From that school.
from that school.
So they don't get laid off.
No, the positions get terminated, so a layoff would be if they were going to continue back into that position. So you generally would get laid off over the summer and then you would continue into your position. But in this scenario, the positions themselves were terminated.
I think we all associate the word terminated with fired. So
Yes.
well, who got fired?
No,
first of
that's
all?
not,
But that's not how we're using
Yeah.
It's
the
more-
word.
yeah, it's more the positions were terminated. Nobody was fired. It's just that the positions came to an end.
If they get laid off, they have to be rehired. If
They have to
Yeah.
be rehired and come up in the new assignment column.
So they weren't, and they were, I guess a way to look at it is if they were actually fired, we wouldn't want them to reapply to other district
Yeah.
positions, and
Yeah.
these ones have applied to other district positions. But
Like Helen said, when you see that word, that just,
I agree with you, I feel the
They're
same
like-
same way, but there's no other HR lingo.
Oath of office, swearing in ceremony, my understanding is we don't need a motion to approve that we have that special board meeting. Just notice to everybody that we are having a special board meeting from 1 to 1:30.
From 1 to 1:30, yes. And we'll have a special guest here too.
And you'll have to decide whether you're coming in Halloween costume or not.
No mustache.
You can come in a Halloween it's whatever
But
you
there's a
want your
special
picture
guest coming
taken
in
in.
a Halloween
so-
outfit.
What's that?
Is the special guest coming in a Halloween outfit?
Well, I don't think it's a Halloween outfit, but it will be a special, there will be a special wardrobe.
You never know with you.
All
So-
right, Remembrance Day, ceremony wreath placement.
Yes, just confirming if, Ida, you're not sure.
I am scheduled right now to be in Fernie on November 13th.
Okay,
So I don't think, I think it's cutting it too close.
okay.
If someone else can do it.
I'm out of town.
So am I.
So are you?
No. I don't know, no.
I don't know.
I can find someone though, because I can have like some of the students from down there and like someone from there. I'll do it.
Chino or.
Well, yeah, or I can get like my daughter could do it. She's with some students.
That would be nice.
I will find somebody, because I always take students, so I'll get some students and,
The only reason I'm not volunteering is because I usually do the one here.
yeah. No, but I'll make sure somebody's there for us.
Okay,
So Bill, I'm hearing you'd like to do the one here. Okay. So Bill would like to do the one here.
okay. I
And
guess
then we can check with Nicole about Hudson Hope. I guess my question is.
What
those
about the new trustee? He might want to do one.
Yeah, we can ask them.
I mean, Thomas might want to go down to Taylor and do the wreath, or, you know.
We can do some asking. I guess my other question was that we've always hit these three. Are there any other Remembrance Day ceremonies in our region, in some of our rural communities? Because there are quite a few, I was gonna say cenotaphs. I think that's.
It is cenotaph.
There are I've been traveling a little bit more and I've seen cenotaphs in other communities and I went, oh, I didn't know that was there. I wonder if they do anything on Remembrance Day.
Ours does.
No.
All right.
I don't know. Does President do their own thing out there, or?
I'll find out. Can I join you on Newtown?
Okay, do you want to speak to BCSTA Trustee Academy?
Yes, we already, I guess we're just looking to see who, will be attending or not. I think we discussed it earlier, so I have a good idea, and then we'll see, everyone pass their information on to Leah so that she can book the flights and reservations. And then we'll get to the circumstances.
I'm done already.
Right, thank you, Bill.
Just for those that don't connect the dates, the Christmas is that evening
That
of
evening.
the day that we come back. Just a little fun fact.
All right. Calling the question this time. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 9.1 on your agenda, which is reports of the regular committee of the whole meeting of October 3rd, and that's pages 16 and 17 in your agenda package. Need a couple minutes to look at that. I have a mover and seconder from those that were at the meeting, moved by David, seconded by Madeline. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? All in favor? Business arising. I have a question, because I told somebody to look on the website for the one-page snapshot. Is it there? Because I couldn't find it.
It is.
Okay, where is it?
Under, financial statement section, and then there's a budget section, so it's under the budget.
Okay, under budget. Well, they told me they couldn't find it now. Tell them the right place. My bad. I didn't tell them the right place. Okay. Moving on to policy committee. Take a minute to look at the notes from our policy committee meeting of October the 3rd. So just an update related to the learning resources policy, because it was me that put a halt to this last time because there was something in it that I didn't understand. In one section of that policy, we state that resources for health and careers are going to come to the board for approval. Well, we as a board would not necessarily approve learning resources when there's already a ministerial approval process in place. And then further within the same document, there is the concept that if there's a challenge to a learning resource, then there's an ad hoc committee that a trustee is part of that makes a decision or makes a recommendation to the superintendent, then the superintendent would make a decision about that. If the board's involved in health and career and nothing else, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then if the whole board's involved in the decision, you aren't left with the right for a Section 11 appeal if we don't like, if somebody says, okay, it went through the ad hoc committee, they've done this, and the superintendent has agreed with that ad hoc committee, and we still don't think it's right. How do we appeal it if, so there were some inherent issues. In the meantime, the ministry, and Stephen can speak further to this, has provided some direction around the fact that the whole concept of learning resources and board's involvement with them is going to be clarified.
Yeah, we'll take our time with this one, and the ministry is in fact even beyond what was initially their objective around social considerations being included. Beyond that now, they're actually wanting to provide further umbrella type of guidance around learning resources. So that could take several months before that comes out.
So the next one that we're going to take a look at is 8001, which is the annual operating budget. And I know that this is recent and part of our term, but we've done some things with other ones, but there was some problems with the tightness and the timelines being laid out the way that they were. So Angela asked for us to take a look at this policy, and I guess, for want of a better word, put some flexibility in it. You're still going to do all the same things that were there within the timelines, but
I'm not held to the timeline. So if I want to bring something forward earlier, or if the ministry changes a timeline, it's not in policy. Like I don't want
Not contravention.
Yeah, I don't want them to be in conflict. So that's why I asked, we put kind of broader terms in the words and took out the more strict timelines of the table. So.
And this policy is coming forward for notice of motion, so we just need a mover for that. So moved by Madeline that the Board of Education put forward policy 8001, the annual operation budget, for notice of motion. We don't have a seconder and we don't have a vote on it until the meeting.
Perfect.
Maybe. All All right. Employer-installed video surveillance. Based on legal advice, we needed to change this policy. And we have discovered that there is some housekeeping to still be done. We do reference the School Act and their, and 74.01, but inadvertently it's not all included in here. We don't need to wait to have it included. We can trust that that's going to be fixed before it goes out for notice of motion, because in no way, shape, or form are we changing the intent of the policy, especially when 74.01 is referenced. So could I please have a mover related to employer-installed video surveillance, moved by Ida's, and that the Board of Education put forward policy 7017, video surveillance, employer-installed video surveillance for notice of motion. Put that word employer-installed in there so it's consistent with it. All right. So other reports, we're moving on to item number 10, BCSDA funding for exempt compensation. It is a matter of public record, this particular letter, and I ask that it go in because when we're starting to discuss the impacts of budget and inflation, and we are seeing our CUPE staff have a much deserved raise, and we're anticipating that there will be raises for our teachers as well. If we have to, out of our operational budget, cover increases to exempt wages, we're really going to take a hit. And there have been lots of asks that this be changed, and this is based, the letter is based on a motion that was made at our AGM just to keep the pressure up on this item. So that is there for your reference, because it will be a really big hit everywhere if that's not funded. So we added an agenda item, and that was special recognition. And we have some recognition tonight from the BCSTA, and I'm going to slip some other things into it. So for Ida, we have a life member's pin, and as Ida suggested, she is serving her 28th year as a trustee, and so the BCSTA has a pin and a plaque for her. And now you get to have your apple.
Now I get to have my apple.
Yeah, 1 second, guys.
Okay.
You have to be in the floor.
There's just those two guys, make sure it's opened up and.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And Ida, this is the time I'm going to
She
tell
gets
you,
over
we
the
did nominate you. You had the full nomination of the board for a Platinum Jubilee Medal. But guess what? Because you were serving, you couldn't get one.
No.
That makes sense.
1 second, please. That's great. Okay, here we go. Nice smile, please. And one more. Thank you.
Terrific.
All right.
Thank you, Ida.
Now, Bill, you only get the apple because you got given a pin at the last meeting. So Bill is
Come get your
starting
apple.
his 3rd term with us.
Are we gonna like shoot it off his head with an arrow or something?
We could do that.
We're not in Switzerland.
Oh, do you have it? Very exciting.
Oh, he has an arrow? Okay.
No, he has
I
I got the bow.
Really?
Yeah.
So there you go. For 2
We have
terms.
two life
And one more. Make sure it's good. I'm sure it is. Yes. it is.
Faster than me.
Thank you.
So, unfortunately, Aaron is far away, And we have the same presentation for her from the BCSTA.
Do it in front of the TV.
You get to pick who your apple goes to.
Smile, Aaron. There you go. There, that's-
Can we open it up, Helen?
Yeah.
Would it be possible, please?
Yeah.
Oh, can you caramelize it and mail it to me?
You would like it in apple crisp form? All right.
Okay, let's see if I can make sure I get her in and you as well there.
3
Okay,
times.
that, yeah, there we go. Nice, okay.
How's my hair?
Okay, Helen, if I could have you turn to me, that'd be great, just so I can make sure. Okay, everybody smile, please. Yeah,
Our
let's double
monitor
check.
is reflecting your glasses.
Just one sec, I'll do one more here, just move a little wider. Move this more light. Okay, one more, smile, everybody, please. And,
Is the
Yeah.
monitor reflect, like the blue monitors?
yeah, it's just a little on the lights, but that's fine. That's-
I'm not finished with you, Aaron, but
Uh-oh.
we will get this stuff to you.
You can have my apple if you want it, Helen.
Okay,
They want to make the whole pie.
so Aaron, obviously we've made comments all night long about the fact that we're gonna miss you. And we certainly, on behalf of School District 60, appreciate everything that you've done for us. And so what we have for you, because you do like your coffee, and maybe even different special drinks, is we have a Coast Salish designed mug. And quite fitting for you, because the artist that designed it termed it matriarchal power. And if there's ever matriarchal power, it's you. And we also want to thank you for having taken a special interest in our Indigenous students and serving for so long for the BCSD on the Indigenous Advisory Committee. So now I just have to get it to you with the other stuff, okay?
Thank you.
You know, one more time, if you don't mind, the last copy is, so I'll just take this out of your hands right now. And so, yeah.
Just, we can do this one more time. Sorry, better lighting. Another smile from you both ladies, please. Thank you.
All right, so we will get the mug to you.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank
And
you,
your,
Angela.
your pin's green. What color was yours, Bill? Is it green? So we've discovered that there's different colored apples, and I didn't know that, or I should have had 3 different colors out there, but.
Blue,
Mine's pretty gold.
mine's blue.
Pretty gold, yeah, after 20 years, you just get gold.
When I say my apple is kind of a gold.
Okay, moving on to,
As long as it's not your snow, that's golden, Ida.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I'm gonna miss you.
we are gonna miss you. All right, BCPC, and Madeline is going to present there as our alternate BCPC rep.
For those that aren't aware, I kind of wasn't, but there's the symposium coming up here in November. We have Helen attending and Nicole, who's back by then, as our rep. The theme is transforming to a better workplace. There's going to be BCSDA and BCPC joint new trustee orientation program. I think at the academy, there's going to be some sessions for that, which I think is a good idea to do just for information's sake for those poor new trustees for overload, because I remember that. And there might be a series of virtual webinars over winter and spring. And they're looking at a new strategic plan for 2023 and to 2025. And the bargaining is ongoing.
We're scheduled now, aren't we? For QP?
Yes, for QP, we have it set for that first
December 5th to the 9th.
to the 9th, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Board Pro D committee will be part of our meeting with the new board, and we'll be looking at working on the concept of orientation. because there's always, no matter whether we're new or old, always lots to learn about this job and this role. Under correspondence, we had talked at the last meeting about a letter to the city to thank them for the effort to have our students involved in recreational activities free of charge while they were in town during the evacuation. And Steve and I went out to Hudson Hope for a barbecue there, and I had a young lady come up while I was talking to her mom, who was showing her mom the thank you cards that they had made to send in to the evacuee families and people that had taken them in. And I think there was one teacher that was doing a whole lot of stuff.
Thank you
wanna
cards.
speak to that?
Yeah, and so there's an open house and as well as sort of the bit of a grand opening, second time round of the Longhouse sales, which is profiled when we had the barbecue. And so then we went inside and all the teachers had their desks in their classrooms set up. And one particular teacher was getting their students to write some thank you cards for all the great receptions that they received here in Fort St. John.
And I was going to say, in conversation with Mayor Ackerman, I thanked her in person, and she said that they have made a note for if there are future evacuations, that right off the hop, access to city facilities and recreation will be free. That was one of their takeaways from it. So I thought it was important before she moves on to the Blueberry that we thank her in person, because I think that was really important to her. So
Thanks for writing the letter, Helen.
So, item number 12, unfinished business, exciting unfinished business. We met at the museum on World Teacher Appreciation Day, and there was Bruce Christensen, who is the president of the museum, Margaret Little, Michelle Weed, and the head of the museum. And at that point, they made it go live on their website, all of that great big binder of information that was presented to us. So what I'd like to do is, and you can go, if you go and link onto the museum archives now, you can see it, and it's searchable and it's set up in the same sections. Margaret Little is already working on additions to it, so it will become a live document. What I'm going to ask for your support in is having district staff do whatever they need to do to have it accessible, even on a link, maybe even on our own website, or part of the Digmore electronic. They can figure that part out, because I don't fully understand it all. But just to make sure that all of our schools and all of our students have access to it. It's done.
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
And then item number 12.2, MLA meeting follow-up. I did do a written report, because I think it's going to be important if we develop, as we look to developing an advocacy plan around recruitment and retention, to make sure that we're really consistent with our key messages and who we're talking to. One of the lines that Steve and I've now heard use a couple of times, and I found it somewhere else too, is yes, there are teacher shortages across the province, but all shortages are not equal. And we have
equitable.
Equal or equitable. So we need to remember to throw that one in there. I knew I didn't have it right, Stephen.
That's okay.
But that's why that is included there in your package. Any other questions related to that?
Just Stephen, any more updates on the picking up the Alberta model?
Oh, yeah, no, that'll be a long-term piece, but certainly just ongoing interest. And so nothing specific on that yet. We're really hopeful that the new board, along with your northern colleagues, will actually pick up some of this advocacy work with local politicians and the ministry.
Somehow we can help and keep us updated.
Okay. Not aware of any other new business. And our PRNT and QP and DPAC are not here. So now it's time for questions from the press and the public, and we're so excited to have press here.
There you go. Couple of things, if I could, at the top, if you would indulge me, Madam Chair. You mentioned about not using the newspaper. I would implore you to please reconsider. The only reason I ask that is because no, that's fair. I would ask only because guess where my wage comes from. But I would also preface that by saying, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Isn't there an online version of your newspaper?
There is an online version, and I was just going to allude to that, to the fact that please let us know what we can do to make it easier, including the digital side of it. I fully understand, being a counselor or former counselor, how the deadlines, and I even organized an all candidates forum with virtually no time at all. So I understand about the timelines and the crunches and stuff, but I just ask for.
appreciate that feedback, because if you can put it in paper, like, obviously we want to hit the most, it's just that we
Yeah.
came,
And the dates are so,
the dates aligned so odd that it would have been far before, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna put it in your court.
Yeah.
and
Oh, no,
then-
like, work
Yes,
together, like I
yes,
said,
for sure.
with regards to
Oh, I
that.
appreciate that.
Well, and I think the other thing, there's different generational places people access their
Yes.
information. And I think that there's still a core group of people that press works for. Where there's other people, it might be radio or it might be social media, so.
And you mentioned about the education, about people not knowing what school trustees do. Perfect opportunity leading up to that time frame, to have that opportunity, in digital especially. The other thing, I know school district isn't involved with the all candidates forum, but again, just more or less, we weren't even aware of any school trustee candidates, all candidates meetings. And again, we're obviously, it would have been nice to be out there and be able to talk to the candidates and do that. I know the school district isn't involved in that. I understand that, but it's just maybe, for candidates or for groups that are out there that are organizing these events to let them.
Well, we can make sure,
Well-
PRT is not here tonight, but we could do that. Erin?
Well, the last election, you guys had a whole spread in the newspaper for each trustee, who answered the questions and stuff. So you sent out a bunch of questions and we answered them with picture of ourselves, and you put it in the newspaper before the election.
No, agreed. But it's also, we also did with the councilors and city, the mayoral candidates, we also had them at the Lido, and we were also getting more coverage. So, but I understand that, absolutely. Thank you. Could you please clarify for me the deficit? I want to kind of just make sure I.
Oh, I should never have used the word deficit.
Okay, so what is that?
I'm like, first meeting and he's here and he used the word
It's
deficit.
okay. That's all right. And again, I'm an ex-counselor, so I understand about how these things work.
It's really about the timing of the funding.
Okay.
So we run our September, as we're fully staffed with teachers and support staff, but we're not funded fully for those people until we move on into the year, into October and November. So deficit is a very strong word. Please don't use it.
Yeah, no.
But it's really about the timing of the funding, because we.
Funding catching up
Yes.
with the
Right.
expenses.
September.
So-
Cycle.
So if you look at the document, the expenses are in line.
Right.
So we're not overspent on our expenses. It's just now we're waiting for the funding to catch up, and usually that happens by December.
And Stephen, is that based on enrollment numbers? Is that how they work it? Because Alberta is like at the end of September, they get the enrollment numbers, the funding comes
Correct.
in based on that.
So the current funding that we have is based on our preliminary annual budget that we submit in June.
Okay.
So we won't get caught up to our funding from the ministry until December. So that's when they take into consideration the numbers we gave in September.
For the increase.
Do you go into close now? Is that, or are you, okay. Would I be able to get the chair and the superintendent of schools for 5 minutes? Okay, awesome, thank you.
Not quite finished,
No,
but
that's
we'll
fine.
finish up and then I'm sure. I don't believe we have any in-camera motions to be brought forward for implementation. If there's any motion to adjourn. So I would entertain a mover and a seconder.
Actually, Helen, we do have motions because we make our motions
That's right.
to accept all the
You
Oh, yeah.
reminded me of that time. So we basically have to bring forward the motions to approve the secretary treasurer and the superintendent's report from the in-camera portion of the meeting. So we're bringing those forward. We've already voted on them. Do we do it again?
Right, you just have to bring them forward.
We just have to bring them forward for implementation.
For
Okay.
implementation.
So we have a mover. Can I get a mover and seconder to bring them forward? Moved by Aaron, seconded by Bill. Looking now for that golden motion for adjournment. Bill,
Aaron?
Yeah, you gotta put Aaron in there.
all right, that's it. Thank you guys very much. We have agenda setting for committee as a whole on Wednesday.